Welcome to Profoundly Silly Wisdom, the channel for people who are ready to start living as their soul self rather than following all the shoulds. So today's question is, do you have spiritual awakening fatigue? Or another way of putting it is, are you tired of spiritually awakening? Yes. So if you're asking that question, then stick with me because we're going to cover that. I feel like tiredness is something that I've not heard many people mentioning this in spiritual circles. The tiredness that can come through doing deep spiritual work. And, if I think about my own experience, I've been going through, I've been a spiritual person for most of my life. It used to be religious, when I was brought up as a Christian, an evangelical Christian, if that means anything to you. And then, so I still retained that spirituality throughout my life. But in terms of spiritual awakening, this going through this experience of realizing that the life I'm living just is not aligned with who I feel like I am on the inside. And in my case, it was a lot of things happening on the outside and the external world that sort of crumbled. I ended up quitting my job, and, lots of things hit me at once. And so that was my experience of spiritual awakening or going through a major life transition. For others, it can just be that growing sense of, hold on a minute, I'm doing all of the stuff I was told to do, but it's not fulfilling me anymore. It doesn't feel like it's resonant anymore, whatever terms you use. But that's how I'm kind of defining spiritual awakening. So I've been in this intense experience for 2.5 years now, of doing deep inner work. And what I've realized over this time is that it can be it uses up a lot of energy, if you like. Because if you think about it, spiritual awakening, before you were living out of your conditioned mind, you were doing what you were taught was the right way to live your life, the right clothes to wear, the right job to do, the right relationships to be in, or at least pursuing these things that we're taught to pursue. And that didn't require as much energy. We got a lot of stuff done before our spiritual awakening because we were doing a lot of stuff on automatic pilot. And that's because, that's the layers of conditioning that we've experienced coming through our families, coming through the education system and the wider culture, through the media and any other education that we pursue after we graduate, if we get that far. And basically, so we run on automatic pilot. We kind of know roughly the kind of life that we're pursuing, and we know roughly how to achieve those things through practice. And so it doesn't require that deep inner thinking. But what happens when we go through spiritual awakening, suddenly all of the things that we thought we were pursuing, we're not pursuing anymore, but we're moving into the unknown. And moving into that unknown means we can no longer rely on the programming. We can no longer rely on the conditioning that we receive to sort of help us make those decisions. So we have to go inwards. And that's why we often talk about it being like a hermit's cave. We go inwards. We have to learn to connect to our inner self, our inner desires. And what are we doing with that? We're connecting with the part of us that exists outside of space and time, frankly, but existed before all of this conditioning told us how we should be living our life. So that takes up a lot of energy. Why? Because you can't do it on automatic pilot anymore. And so, what happens is that you start to question all of the things that you were told, all of the things you were taught about how you should live your life. And not just how you should live your life, but who you are fundamentally as a person. And through that process, you start to realize, a lot of the things I was told aren't actually true for me, and we all go through that process in our own way. But through that, it's that process of bringing to light, if you like, the subconscious patterning that we never paid attention to before because we didn't need to. But that takes energy. If you think about it, these programs were just running and you were happily doing what you knew to do. But now you're having to question everything because you don't know what to do. You don't know what your new life looks like yet. And so you have to start that process of inner reflection and connecting to who you are, fundamentally. So that's the deepest work that you'll ever do. And so, you can't maintain that same level of output, if you like, in your external life, which is why we often find, when we're going through this kind of experience, we kind of have to withdraw from some of the relationships, some of the activities, and we have to sort of go within, and we create quite a lot of space for that reflection because it requires it. So that's why we feel so tired. It's not, I used to panic because I never heard anyone talking about this. So I used to think, what's wrong with me? I can't keep up. I can't, the thought of going out and doing the social stuff I used to do, I just couldn't do it. And I started to panic and think, am I ever going to get my energy back? But if you think about it, it's not that you've lost your energy as such. You're just using it in a different way. And you're using it on an activity of self-reflection, however you're doing that is, very labor intensive, very energy intensive, if you like. And so, so the first thing I would say that if you are experiencing that tiredness, it's entirely normal. So don't worry about, oh my God, I've used up all my brain cells. I'm never going to be able to be efficient again in the same, because I was an executive assistant for a lot of my life, and then I did sort of project work. So, you're used to being efficient and getting on with things. And it's like now, I have to pace myself to organize anything because so much of my attention and energy is diverted into this inner work. But, this is just, I call it a major life transition because it is a transition. You're not always going to be in this state of deep, deep reflection, but you're doing it. What you're doing is you're rediscovering, if you like, or discovering who you truly are, so that then you can orient your life, based on who you really are, not who you were told you should be. So that time will come, my friend. If you're worried about, oh my God, I don't have the energy I used to have. You do, you're just using it differently. And when the deep work is done, when you've made that connection with your true self, your soul, then you will rise again. So don't worry. I'm telling that to myself as well, because like I said, I didn't hear too many people talking about this and I started to get paranoid. But so what can we do if being tired, if you like, a greater level of tiredness is a natural part of this process, then what can we do about it? Well, there are practical things we can do. The first is acknowledge that this is entirely normal, and so therefore, make steps to manage your energy. And be kind to yourself. Don't judge yourself and say, well, I used to be able to get so much done in a day. Well, you're in a different time now and you're doing really valuable, important work that is going to set you up for the rest of your life. So don't do that comparison game. It won't help you. But what you can do, like I say, manage your energy. So what have I written here? So rest is one. Give yourself more time to rest. Whether that's more sleep, if you're not getting enough sleep, or taking naps, or if it's just slowing down, just not running around quite as much as you used to. Just give yourself more time to physically rest. The other thing is to make more space for yourself, and more time, more me time. I've already referred to my experience of kind of, some of the relationships. I haven't been able to hold on to a lot of the relationships I had from my working life, and some sort of fell by the wayside, and I've sort of picked up a few, gone back to a few as my energy levels have risen, and not just my energy levels, my focus, because as I'm starting to come out of this, at the other end, if you like, and focusing a bit more outward in my life, I have the bandwidth, if you like, to do that. But yeah, it's a process. So whatever stage you're at, you need to make the time, what the time for you to relax, decompress, not have to justify yourself to anyone, and to do things that support you. So, being conscious about the activities you do, maybe you reduce some of the stuff that you do, and also the people you hang around with. You may find, if you're going through a really intense sort of dark night of the soul, that certain people just aren't helpful for you to be around. And so just honour that. I'm not saying you have to go around and tell everybody their energy is shit and that you're not hanging around with them anymore for that reason. You're an energy vampire, but be sensitive about it, but prioritise yourself, because this is your soul calling to you and saying it's time for you to know who you really are, not this little person you were taught to be. So honour yourself. Nutrition and exercise, again, there's a lot of shoulds around this, so don't get caught up in, don't let other people tell you what you should be doing, and don't beat up on yourself about it. But if there are things that you can do, make sure that you're eating well, or you're not eating in a way that is hindering you from going through this process. Like if your adrenals are shot, for example, having 10 coffees a day probably isn't a good idea. So I leave that up to you. But yeah, food and exercise can help. And also there are other exercises that involve energy, like yoga, qigong. So not only do they have physical benefits, but they also work on subtle energies. So that supports you in this kind of journey. And other things I've put, other practices, crystals. I'm clutching this baby today because, I'm feeling tired. This is why I'm doing this video. So crystals, again, if that helps you, essential oils, flower essences, singing bowls, tuning forks, getting into nature, earthing, getting your feet on the ground is brilliant. Salt baths, breath work, there are so many things that you can do. And again, I'm not sharing all of these things that you stress yourself trying to get your perfect routine together. It's just whatever piques your curiosity, just gently follow that, and anything you can introduce just to support your energy while you're going through this experience, honouring the experience that you're doing, honouring yourself for having the courage to go through this as well. And so that's the practical sort of managing your energy side. But what about the spiritual steps? Well, if you think about what a spiritual awakening is, it's actually, as I've said, it's your soul calling to you, saying, hey, you're so much more than this person that you were taught to be. The real you, you're getting to know the real you. And so learning to trust your soul is what the spiritual steps are helping you to do. So things like listening to spiritual teachings, like this, like other people, and spiritual teachings that point you to the truth of you being not just a robotic meat suit wandering about the earth, but as you being a soul, an embodied soul, you, or a field of consciousness, if you like. You're not just a physical being. You are also a spiritual being or a field of consciousness. So anything that points you to that truth is going to help remind you what you're doing. By going through this experience, you're connecting with your true self. And things like meditation. Again, the value of meditation, over just spiritual teachings, is that you get to experience your true nature. When you meditate, you're slowing down your brain waves, so you're calming the chatty mind that, constantly stresses us and overwhelms us and fills our minds with distraction. And you're tuning into your soul nature, that you're tuning into your heart, and by doing that, you actually experience your soul nature. So you experience that part of you that exists between the thoughts, and that existed before you ever had thoughts, and that it will exist after you've had all of the thoughts that you have in this human experience. So it's the part of you that is that deep well of knowing. It's that deep consciousness. And it's not something that you can experience other than through empirical experience. Someone can talk to you about it, but you need to find a way of tuning into your soul. And again, meditation is just brilliant for that. So, pick a guided meditation or do your own kind of meditation, but experience what your true nature is like beyond all of the noise of your conditioned mind. And then finally, things like journaling and oracle cards. Again, journaling is great if you have got that busy mind and you're finding it hard to just sit and meditate. It's great to journal and get that stress out of your head onto the page. People do morning pages where they just wake up and they just write whatever comes into the head straight away. And it will surprise you when you first start to do that, how much negative stuff is just churning away in your mind. It makes you understand the conditioning that has shaped you. But then you're able to see, well, actually the real me exists beyond all of that noise. That's just the noise of all of the stuff that I've been taught, and my survival instincts that kick in. So journaling is great. But you can also use journaling to tune into your soul if you use it as like a channeling, so automatic writing. So after you've done a meditation or after you've pulled some cards, to journal on that, on the answer. If you've asked your soul a question, for example, what does my soul want me to know today? You could journal the answer to that, or you could pick the cards after asking that question and journal the answer from what you're sensing from those cards. So again, that's another way of tuning into your soul nature. And one that I love that also doesn't get mentioned so much is affirmative prayer. Prayer is obviously communicating with your soul. You can communicate with God, the universe, you can use or source, whatever term works for you. But I love to focus on the soul because I feel the soul carries, each of our souls carries the theme and the purpose for our experience on this earth. So what better than to speak to your soul and to ask it for help. And of course you can just ask for help with whatever is bothering you, but affirmative prayer is not just, oh, please help me with this because I'm struggling here. It's fine to say that, it's fine to have a conversation with your soul and get it all off your chest, whether it's writing it down or speaking it. But, where affirmative prayer comes in, it's acknowledging, hold on a minute, my soul knows the answer because my soul is the deeper me that has all of the answers for this incarnation, that knows what it wants to experience in this incarnation. And so it's affirmative prayer is thank you for bringing me that answer at the right time and in the right way. And again, it's acknowledging that your soul, we have really chatty minds and they're very impatient. That's why they call it the monkey minds, because monkeys never sit still. They're always fiddling, always scratching. If you've been and seen monkeys, they never sit still and they're mischievous and, they get into all kinds of shenanigans. And that's exactly what our mind is like, our human mind. But our soul mind is very different. Our soul mind is that deep well of consciousness. It's a knowing, and it's not that busy talking. So often, we ask a question and we want to know the answer straight away. Even when I pull tarot cards, I'll get some of the answer, but answers develop over time. Some of the answer comes through your external experience. And, you know, as the more that you tune into your soul through meditation and these other practices, the more you will recognize that you are being spoken to. You know, the answer that you've asked for is coming to you. You know, one example of this recently is, you know, I've been sleeping really terribly for quite some months, and it was starting to drive me nuts. I mean, if anyone, you know, parents will know, sleep deprivation is very difficult. And so I was starting to go, And so I don't know why it took me so long to ask my soul and my guides for help. But there you go. I spoke to the angels as well. I said, you know, thank you for bringing me the answer to help me get better sleep. And the answer came, but it didn't come straight away, because I knew that the answer wasn't in my conditioned mind. I tried everything I could think of and none of it worked. So, you know, and the answer came, and it came when I was attending a class. Someone mentioned a book. It wasn't about sleep. But I just felt, you know, that it just resonated. And again, you because you've been doing that work of practicing tuning into your soul, your body becomes sensitive. Your body is like a sensor, and it senses, there's something going on there. There's, you know, it feels like it lights up, or it might be a sound, or it's going to be different for each person. So yeah, I heard this, someone mentioned this book, and I just kind of knew I'm going to buy that book. So I bought that book, and, you know, and I was flicking through that book some days later. I haven't even read the book, but I, for some reason, just looked through the reference section at the back, and just noticed one particular reference just stood out to me, and it mentioned a YouTube channel. So I just, looked up the YouTube channel. I watched one video, and that video gave me the answer. So that's what I mean. You know, tell me the answer straight away, but learning to trust our soul is also learning to trust that the right information comes to us at the right time. And why is that important? Well, because we've already talked about how overwhelmed our minds get. And so our soul basically, you know, will share with us what we need to know when we know it. So, you know, I hope this has been helpful. So basically, you know, to reiterate what I've said, if you are feeling tired from going through a dark night of the soul, major life transition, spiritual awakening, call it what you will, know that it is entirely normal, and you know, take some of these practical steps, the ones that resonate for you, try them, and, you know, just again with lightness, don't put yourself under pressure, be kind to yourself, and also make sure that you are tuning in regularly so that you can get to experience your soul nature, because that is what is going to help you go through this process of basically moving from trying to control life from your conditioned mind, which is how we were living before, to moving to the other side of, letting my soul guide me, allowing myself to be guided. And that's much more of a feeling rather than having it all in your head. So be patient with yourself, keep tuning in, do what you can to make space for yourself and honour yourself for having the courage to wake up. I'm with you in that 100%. And, you know, that is why I created the Profoundly Silly Wisdom community, because it's tough doing that on your own. You know, I've done a lot of this in isolation, and over the course of this journey, I've met various people who have been going through their own isolated experience. And so the whole purpose of this community is to gather us all together, so that there are people in your life who understand what you're going through. So if that appeals to you, then join the Profoundly Silly Wisdom tribe. Just check the description box below this video, and you can sign up for the mailing list, and you can find out about how you can get more involved in the community and meet other like-minded people to support you and you know, help you move from experiencing spiritual awakening as this, you know, arduous and endurance test into learning to enjoy it, learning to flow with it, learning to allow your soul to take over, because that's when it starts to become so much easier, and that's when things start to really fall into place. So I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please like the video, share it with anyone you know needs it, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more profoundly silly, wise thoughts. Take care, my friends.